guys, I hope you're all well. It's Jamie here from Jamie and his Whiskey. I'm back for another whiskey review, and today we're going to be looking at an extremely well-known whiskey from the Speyside region of Scotland. Yes, it is none other than the Glenfiddich 15-year-old single malt, and it is the Solera 15. So this whiskey is unlike the 12-year-old in the fact that it's been matured in sherry casks as well and finished off in large Solera vats. For any of you familiar with Glenfiddich, you will, or even if you're not familiar with Glenfiddich, you'll know that it's an extremely popular, accessible, worldwide known brand, and they sell a hell of a lot of whiskey. Now, for me personally, I don't have that much experience with Glenfiddich as a brand. The 12-year-old I've tried a few times, but I've never bought a bottle. I've tried it in pubs, occasionally when I've been out and about, and there hasn't really been much of a whiskey selection. So I've thought, well, why not? I'll try a Glenfiddich, and it's always been very pleasant. It's quite floral, quite fruity. There's some grassy notes in there, some hay notes. It has got its own distinctive taste to it. It's not really my personal go-to, but you can't deny that they make very fine whiskies. But as I said, my knowledge of the range and of the core range is rather limited. So this is actually the first bottle of Glenfiddich that I've ever bought in my life, believe it or not. Now, half the reason why I bought this was it was on such a great deal. It was at my local supermarket for 23 quid. And this normally RRPs around 40 to 45 pounds per bottle. So for 23 quid, I thought I'd have to snap it up. So and I'm quite glad I did. It's pretty good value for 23 pounds, I must say, and for 15 years old. However, what does this compare to with, let's say, other 15s or other age statement whiskies I've had which are younger? And it's quite interesting, really. But before I taste it and nose it, I wanted to talk very quickly about the bottle itself. Now, I think they repackaged the bottle quite recently, and you can see it's quite a distinctive shape, and I quite like it. It fits just perfectly in my hand, and I haven't got the biggest hands in the world, and unlike those short, stubby whiskey bottles that you sometimes get, like say like Kilchoman, when you're trying to grab hold of the thing and it feels like it's falling out of your hand. With this, it fits rather snugly. So a very small minor point, but I do like the bottle and it's quite satisfying to feel. There you go. So into the important stuff now. As I said, it's 15 years old, and it's going to have, well, it should have some sherry aspects to it. So, and there we go. Bit more. As well, it's worth mentioning that this whiskey is bottled at 40%, and as far as I can tell, it's probably been chill filtered and colour added. So on the presentation front, it just gets the 1 out of 4, but still, for 23 quid, I'm not complaining. Right, so first of all, on the nose. Yeah, the nose is very Speyside-y. It's pretty pleasant. There's a slight alcoholic tinge to the nose, I should say, which sort of shoots up right into your sinuses. So even for 40%, there is a bit of alcohol on the nose. There's some very sort of mild spices coming through. There's some raisin, and it's all quite pleasant, really. Yes. Quite a nice arrival. 40%. Again, the mouthfeel, a little thin, but it's quite a smooth, pleasant sherried whiskey with some with some raisins and some spices, a little bit of vanilla obviously, a bit of oak. And generally a very pleasant all-round jam, but nothing spectacular, nothing really sort of sticks out at you. And for 15 years old, it does taste rather, it's not particularly complex. The finish is pretty short, crisp, clean and fresh. Great for a beginner, really good for a beginner. And it's got 15 years on it. I don't know if that 15 years has been spent in the most incredible casks, because I've tasted far more complex 15 years. However, when we add a wee bit of water to this whiskey, I think we'll find it does change. So I'm not going to add a lot. We're literally talking, that's probably a bit too much actually, but it will still benefit this whiskey. I've found a few drops to this will bring back that slightly more old signature that I've got from the Glenlivet 12 before, which gives it this more grassy note. Oh, immediately on the nose it's improved. The sweetness is now just jumps out at you more. It's more of a dessert sweetness I find now, more than just a fruity sweetness. And it's brought out this lovely, yeah, as I said, this grassy note, this hay note, and also this slightly more pleasant musty note. There's something here that reminds me a little bit of Clynelish 14. That's when you add the water. If any of you have had Clynelish 14 before, you'll know what I mean. It's a certain type of kind of a waxy note really, and I'm not saying it's as prominent in this with the water, but it's there. There's something there which reminds me of it. Now that's just my brain and how it works, but for me that's what I get. Yeah, the nose is immediately improved, and the longer you sit with this as well, so if you let this oxidize outside in the glass for another sort of 10 minutes, this whiskey will definitely improve, because it needs it, because without the water and straight from the bottle, the whole experience is a little bit confined, condensed, and rather short-lived and simple. Pleasant enough, but short-lived and simple. With the water and a bit of time, this starts to act a bit more like its age. Yeah. Those whiskies become fresher as well, become a bit more alive. So the water has brought up that sweetness really well, with these underlying notes I was saying about hay and grass in the background. The finish is of course still quite simple, very clean and fresh as I said before, but very pleasant nonetheless. Now, compared to other 15-year-olds, you know, I reviewed the Glen Scotia a few months ago, and this isn't a patch on the Glen Scotia. Now, you could say it's down to personal taste, but it's not just that. The Glen Scotia has way more complexity, way more cask influence than this does. But it's still a pleasant whiskey. Now, what would I rate it? I'd give it an 83 out of 100. That's my personal preference. As I said, the RRP is around £40 to £45 mark. That's a bit salty for me. Not for a 15-year-old. It's a great price for a 15-year-old, but for me personally, it's not in my my specific wheelhouse of what I like. But I've been enjoying this whiskey. I bought this a couple of weeks back. You know, I've got through half a bottle, and it's more than pleasant. So a beginner will enjoy this, as will any fan of like a sherried whiskey. But as I said, you can get a Glendronach 12, which I haven't reviewed yet, but I will. Where's my Glendronach? 1 second. You can get this for a similar price, sometimes cheaper. No, it's about the same price. It's about low 40s, low to mid 40s. Yes, it's a 12-year-old, but this is a sherry whiskey. It's not a sherry bomb, but it's a sherry whiskey, and this has way more, just more substance to it. This is more like butter and on toast when you have it. It's got that smell, it's got that slightly more rich, full, creamy texture to it, which this is lacking somewhat. Now, what helps with that as well is the fact that this is bottled at 43%. This is bottled at 40%. Glenfiddich, you know, who knows what this would be like if it was unchill filtered, brought up to 43%. It might have a bit more impact. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think the amount of output that Glenfiddich have per year and the amount they sell, I'm not sure that the quality is quite up there with the quantity at all times. And as I said, there is nothing wrong with the Glenfiddich. It's perfectly good. But compared to something like this for the same price, the 15 years and the 12 years don't necessarily marry up. Now, you know, I've had 10-year-olds which are more complex than the Glenfiddich. Now, I'm not putting the whiskey down. As I said, I've given it an 83 out of 100, and it's more than fine, and I'm proud to have it on my windowsill. But as I said, I probably won't be buying this again for myself personally. But if you see it at that price, boy, do snap it up. It's definitely worth it at that price for sure. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll be back soon with another whiskey review. In the meantime, take care of each other, and I'll see you all soon. This is Jamie and his whiskey signing out. Take care. Bye-bye.